What's going on, guys? DIY Dale back in the studio. It's Thanksgiving. I'm excited. This is going to be my first time, honestly, having a nice drink and a cigar for the video. Enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. And I want to start off with talking about really just some quick things that I'm thankful for. I am thankful for the amazing wife I have. Man, I couldn't say so many great things about her. It's just like unlimited. Everything from allowing me to chase my dreams and leaving the corporate world and starting a remodeling company, to believing in me to build ourselves a wedding barn, which is turning into a winery, and we host weddings here on our property, to she's going to be a great mother, you know, and we're doing March. It's obviously November right now, so it's a big deal. I'm really thankful for that. I'm thankful for the parents that I have and the background that I have, and how they raised me to respect everybody the same. Whether it's a millionaire or the garbage man or the janitor, they're all hardworking in their own way. They all deserve to have the respect. And man, I'm truly thankful for that. I'm thankful for my sisters, my stepbrothers, or my stepbrother, I should say, and just the goods and the bads that we've gone through together and where we're at today because of all that. So thankful for my friends. Man, I don't even know how to express how amazing the guys that I have around me are, and a couple girls that I grew up with as well. We've been through so much shit together, and we've all came out on top. I couldn't ask for a better group of friends to lean on. They all own businesses in some aspect. They all have done the corporate world, or at least most of them, and the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And I'm thankful for having good fathers around me and good mothers. Yeah, I think me being a new father coming up, and a lot of guys out there watching this might be fathers or soon to be, it's super vital, super important to surround yourself with good people like that. You can lean on them when you need to. You could take away so many great things that they do. Consolidate all that really into your own, perfect world and make it work. So God bless. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I did. I actually convinced my mom to come here and cook, so it was fucking awesome. But I'm going to get a little deep today, and I didn't think I'd put this one out as soon as I was going to, but I figure why not? Let's ride the momentum of people getting to know me, and this is going to be top 10 failures that made me stronger, not weaker. Some of this stuff nobody has known. I've wrote this over the last 10 years, and I've had this list and I kept it. It really hasn't changed. Nothing this young and impactful in my life has happened really since then. I had something impactful, and I'll talk about it a little bit before we get started. That's not on this list. Is me and my wife lost a baby at 7 weeks. And I think that's something to talk about simply because there's so many people that might struggle with it. I'm not going to sit here and say we struggled with it and we didn't tell a bunch of people. We didn't want a pity party. We kind of acknowledged it happened. It was unfortunate. It was sad. But my wife, I was there for her that day when we kind of found out. And then from there on out, she's been a trooper. We were patient. We tried again. And yeah, so here we are. But I want to get into it. Let me light the cigar first. If anybody's wondering, because I know a lot of guys will ask what this is, and this one's a Leather Rose Deadwood Tobacco Company. It's pretty good, not too sweet. And the bourbon I'm drinking is Braden Bow. So, all right, guys, number one on my list is something that happened when I was in 6th grade. I was about, let me double check this. I was 12 years old. We were playing tag. Literally, we were playing tag. It was getting dark with myself, my friend Richie, my neighbor Darren, and Zach and Derek. They were brothers. And then next to them was a group of girls that were all sisters that lived there as well. So we were all friends. We were playing tag. It was getting late. It was getting cold. We all had jackets on, and just being dumb kids. And this is a pivotal moment in my life where it was fight or flight. And what happened was Richie at the top of the driveway mooned the girls. Like if you don't know, mooning is you show your butt cheeks. And moon the girls, so it was no big deal. It was just a laugh, Got over it. We're playing tag, and then probably about 30 minutes later, we're in the backyard of the girls' backyard, because we could all kind of get access through the yards behind the garages and stuff. And in between that mooning and 30 minutes, the girls at one point went in and said something to their dad, who ended up being a biker in a gang, and he was Mr. Billy Badass. Well, Richie, if I was in 6th grade, Richie was in 8th. He was probably 6 foot tall at the time. He's now 6'3", 6'4". So from a distance, he looks like a grown fucking man. And the father came out, instantly seeing Richie. Didn't ask questions, started beating the living shit out of him. And me being in 6th grade, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. He's screaming for help. I could remember it, like literally. I could just remember him screaming, help, help, help. And ran home to my parents, told them to call the cops immediately. And Richie ended up getting a broken eye socket. I think he had some broken ribs. He didn't go to school. It was easily over a month because he was in the hospital. And this guy ended up going to prison. I think he went to prison for, it had to have been 4 years, 6 years or something. That moment, it changed me in terms of I never ran from a fight again. And I feel like still to this day, I wish I would have stayed and done something. I know I was in 6th grade. I was this little chubby fat kid, but I've never backed down from a fight since. Me and my friends have been in many scuffles, street fights, bar fights, and not once have I turned cold shoulder. This changed my life so much because I just felt like anything that came to me that was tough or scary, it was like, no, fuck that. It's not happening again. So, Richie, if you ever watch this, man, I know we talk time to time, and that really changed a lot of our friendship as well, I'll be honest, especially at a young age. I love you, dude. I always love you. And so, yeah, that's number one. Number two, at age 15, my dad had a massive stroke. Many of your parents, may have had strokes at a later date. I know there was a few that actually lost their parents when we were in grade school, and I'm sorry for that. I could remember I was at football practice, and let me pause this. My mom is in a snowstorm, and she's calling me. We'll get right back to this, guys. All right, guys, I'm back. Got a hold of my mom. She just called me. She's stuck in a snowstorm, probably 500 feet from her house, but it's kind of on a hill, and the entire city's shut down. So she's okay, but I just had to check on her. Now, I want to restart this, guys. I was 15. I remember my dad had a stroke. I was at football practice, and a little background story about this. My mom and dad separated. When that happened, that crushed my dad. A lot of people get this misconception that my mom left my dad after the stroke, but that is 100% false. My mom left my dad, and my dad was really beat up about that. And then around maybe a couple months after that happened, my dad then lost his job after about 16 years. He was a machinist. He ran a grinder at a company called SPS Technologies. That was in, technically, I think it was still considered Garfield Heights. It was right on the border, maybe even Cleveland. But that really drove him into depression when he lost that job, because it was about a 20-year and out type of job. So anyways, he was getting close to, his retirement, or at least putting in the time where he could kind of relax a little bit. And yeah, he lost that job. I remember the day he came home from work with his toolbox in his trunk of his car. I just knew. I said, there's no way my dad's bringing that thing home without him losing his job. And so sure enough, he lost it. He ended up getting a new job with the union. His original company was non-union, so he had to start from ground zero. And when that happens, he was a low man on the totem pole. I think he was only making $16 an hour anyways at his old job. I think he got a job making like 12, trying to raise myself and my younger sister. It was almost impossible. And so he's at this new job. He's not feeling well. A week prior, I think he had a TIA, which is a mini stroke, when we went to go buy my football cleats, because I didn't even have my license yet. I had my temps, and I had to drive him all the way home from the mall because he was dazing in and out, and he couldn't drive. It was really an emergency. I should have took him to the emergency room then, and I just was too young. I didn't even think about it. And he was also stubborn, so I'm at football practice. My cousin from my dad's side, he's standing on top of the hill, and I'm like, why is my cousin here? And then my coaches are like, hey, Dale, come to the top. You got to leave practice. And they pretty much told me my dad was in the hospital. We go there. I'm holding my dad's hand. He hasn't had the stroke yet. And man, when he gripped my hand so tight and just kind of rolled his eyes back, and they had to like pry my fucking hand from my dad's hand. I didn't want to let him go, and his grip was really tight. His body was spazzing out. I remember I started crying. I thought he was dead right there. I actually went to call my friend Erica, so shout out. We're still best friends. I was in her wedding. And, I was like, man, I don't know, fucking know. I think my dad's gone. And sure enough, he survived. But my dad went to a nursing home for 10 years. I think he was 48 when he had the stroke. So from 48 to 58, he was in a nursing home. And moral of that story is, I could go into depth and you guys will hear about this, but that's not really what this entire podcast episode is about. But I learned from this is so many fucking things can happen so quickly. And I had to step up and become the man in my family. I was there for my little sister. I pretty much raised her. We did have a stepdad, and he was an amazing guy. But, he ends up passing, my stepdad, and we'll talk about that. And once again, I had to step up. And, I felt like every good man in my life I ended up losing, or something happened dramatically. And so there's just certain situations you just have the man to fuck up. So shitty circumstances, but it made me stronger, not weaker. Moving on to number 3, age 16. I'm living with my mom and my stepdad. We were spread thin. My stepdad, he'd done windows. His name was Chuck, one of the greatest men I've ever met and ever known. He used to pick my dad up from the nursing home, and he wanted us, and my dad, to have a great relationship, because we always did. And he stepped up and took care of us. But he was raising also my stepbrother Donnie, my stepbrother Chucky, myself and my sister. And he owned, or was part owner of, a window company, so he would take out and install windows. My mom would help, but it wasn't anything crazy. I was still on, reduced lunch. I didn't have name brand shit. And so I was one of those kids that got good grades in high school. I was in honors classes, and I made a decision that not a lot of people know is, I decided to sell drugs. Not proud of it. I wouldn't change it, but, and I'm not talking heavy drugs. I know that sounds crazy. I mean, I was selling weed, but back then, early 2000s, selling that and buying QPs at a time, or half pounds at a time, in the projects of Cleveland as a white kid, that shouldn't have been there. A lot of things could go wrong. So I ended up getting a call from a guy one night. I remember I was with my high school girlfriend. I was with two other buddies. One, his name was Tommy. I won't put out his last name. Another one was with John. Won't put out his last name, but I think it was Tommy. And if I wasn't, stand corrected. But I'm pretty sure it was. And we ended up driving my car, and I went to go sell, I think it was like a half ounce to this guy. And his name's Joey. I remember his last name. I'll always remember his last name. And if I ever find him, I will probably crush him simply because of the way he made me feel. And I'm 36, and I still think about this because, I just didn't have an opportunity to make a move or do anything. But he asked to see the weed, and being a fool I am, and just Mr. Nice Guy and just wanting to please people, he ended up taking it. He could have just walked away. But he came back to the car, and I was like, wow, it's really like that? And he slugs me through my driver's side, right here, punches me. I spit blood all over my windshield, all over my my high school girlfriend. And he had a guy standing at the door, in front of me, and he lifts up his shirt, and he's got a gun. Could have been real, could have been fake, but I wasn't taking that chance, and I'm just sitting there like, fuck. And I said, oh, it is like that? He's like, yeah, it is. Get the fuck out of here. So bad decisions usually have bad consequences. And did I learn from that? Abso-fucking-lutely. I think I was turning 18 pretty soon, and I made myself a promise that, when I turn 18, I'm going to stop this, because at 18 you could go to prison for a long time, and sure enough, I stopped. And it's funny, I never sold to like guys on my football team. It was always people that really didn't have an impact on me. They weren't like my friend's circle, because none of my friends did drugs. It was just, I would take cash, and I would just take my dad to the movies at the nursing home, or I'd bring him a couple beers. I'd buy myself some name brand clothes, and yeah, that's a dark time that I remember, and I learned from it. So, moving on. This is one that not a lot of people will think it's a big deal, but it's all about perspective. So, I think about it to this day. 21 years old, we're sitting in summer camp, senior year of college. So it's my fourth year playing football. And that's probably the biggest and fastest I've ever been. And I probably came in weighing, I don't know, about 211, maybe 208, 206, something like that. But I was solid. Trained with my buddy Craig Sykes all summer. He stayed with us. And as a linebacker, and just who I've always been in high school, I was a captain. Senior year of college, I played for a really good school in Division III, Heidelberg University. If you guys look it up, from the years 2008 to 2012, we went from 0-40 to, I think my senior year we were 8-2. We were ranked in the nation at one point during the season, and we rebuilt that program with a guy named Mike Hallett, who his pedigree was from Mount Union. He knew how to build a program. He knew how to take kids, young boys, and turn them into fucking men, and that's what we did. So, anyways, I was nominated to be captain, or at least not nominated. I was nominated. We sat in this auditorium during summer camp, and at first I said no, and so the coaches are going around asking if everybody else wants to be on. And the reason I said no is because I didn't start the previous year, and there was guys that were bigger than me, but I was pretty intelligent. Me and Craig played inside linebacker together. One of my best friends, and also he was best man at my wedding. One of my best men's, Dawson Gore, he he was inside linebacker with me, and but yeah, I said no, man, and I regret that because I wish I would have said yes immediately, because I think more men would have followed that trend of voting for me. I ended up kind of reneging on it and saying, hey, yeah, I'd like to actually put my hand up and I will take that nomination. So, but the moral is this: I didn't get to be captain, and I didn't start my senior year. Played a lot, but didn't start. That's okay, because what I took from it is this, and I kind of live by this: is you don't need to be a leader, or I'm sorry, you can be a leader without a title. There's so many people that love to have a title and they're not a leader, where, yeah, just because I wasn't the captain doesn't mean I wasn't a leader on the team, right? And I was going to do whatever I could to help the team, help the guy next to me, put us in a better position to win, and you know, swallowed a lot of shit at certain times, and that's okay. So it's big to me that maybe not becoming a captain allowed me to look at it in a perspective of I could still lead without this title. And I've done it my entire life. Whether it was college football, whether it was at work, all the companies I've worked for, running my own company, I just think that's a big thing, is you could always lead without a title. And that's how you become a leader, is you do the things when it's not asked upon you. So, age 24, here's another denial that got a punch in the face. Not a physical punch this time, figuratively. So I was working at a company called Penske Truck Leasing. That was my first job out of college. I was on a one-year track, essentially, to go from a management sales trainee to either a branch rental manager, they called it, or a branch sales manager. And everybody always told me to go into sales, and because I was young and dumb and people were kind of forcing me into that role, I decided to go the management route. Well, I was there less than a year. Promotion opportunity came up in Chicago, and honestly, I wanted to get the fuck out of Cleveland. At the time, there was nothing going on. Me and my friends were so busy growing our careers that we hung out with each other, but I could sacrifice that and then finally make my way back home eventually. So I go to Chicago. I'm overseeing 3 offices. I was overseeing an office in an area called Cicero. I was overseeing an office in Chicago Ridge, and I was overseeing an office in Downers Grove. Well, there was 2 other locations that another manager was overseeing, and then we had something called a district rental manager. So he overseen me and another guy as a branch rental managers. Well, this district rental manager, I won't say his name, but the dude gets fired for, I don't know, I think it was going to like strip clubs on the company dime, like crazy shit. He was going through a divorce. The dude hit a low spot, and God bless him. I hope he's doing okay now, but he lost his job. I was given essentially the role of a district rental manager at a young age. I was probably 23, 24 maybe, and I was overseeing essentially not only my 3 offices, but I was the boss of the guy who I was lateral with at the time. Plus, as a district rental manager, you're overseeing the branch sales managers. So, like I said, I was always a leader. I was interim district rental manager. I was doing really well. For 3 or 4 months, we were growing. All our projections, P&Ls were good. No mistakes were really happening out in the field. I was also training and onboarding people. I was meeting with the guy who hired me out there. His name was Brendan. Because he was essentially the ARM, I think, at the time. The area rental manager. And little did I know that the permanent position for this job was already planned to be given to a guy named Joe out of, what was it, Hertz Rent-A-Car. He was older, and I think, well, I know, because I was told this, that it was his job, and then we just had to go through the proper channels to interview for it. So I was denied the promotion, even though I interviewed well for it, and people were still loyal to me, which created friction for the new guy. If this guy ever watches this, I don't care, because I'm doing pretty fucking well, and I could care less. But essentially what happened was I was called in the office by HR, and I was told some things that I should probably find a new job. And that was because this guy and I had a lot of friction. There was kind of a fight back and forth for leadership stuff, and I had an opportunity to leave. So I always say this, and this is what I learned from it: know your value, know your worth, take a risk. And I went from Chicago, interviewed for a job for pharmaceutical sales in Toledo. I didn't get that job. I still kept my head up, and I got a call back a week later, and they said, hey, we really like you. We're just going to hire some guy from Toledo because he knows this territory. And one of my best friends, Brian McAvina, which he'll be on this podcast soon to tell his great story, he got me into pharmaceuticals, and I got a job for 3 months to take the Detroit South territory and grow it. And if it didn't grow, obviously I'd be let go. But it was a territory that they were collapsing. It wasn't profitable. And I turned it around. And it's one of those things I always say, take a chance, know your worth. I made 3 times my salary. I think Penske was paying me 40 fucking grand with a company car. And I got my first job in pharma making 60 grand, company car, unlimited bonus, stock. And it was just a life-changing moment. So I had all this money, and I didn't spend it. Like I said, you guys have heard if you listen to the other podcasts, I saved it and spent it wisely. But just know your worth, and that's that one. Let's take a quick break. We got number 6 coming up. Number 6 is going to be about my stepfather passing and how that impacted me, and I came out stronger on the other end. Welcome back, guys. We are on number 6. Like I said, my stepfather, Chuck, one of the best men I've ever known. He inevitably passed of cancer. Kind of go through that a little bit with you just to share what I learned from that. So it was really in the process of me leaving the Chicago area and moving to Detroit, okay? I had all this going on. And when I mean all this going on, I was changing jobs. I didn't have a car. I borrowed my younger sister's car to start my pharma job because technically they didn't give me a company car. They gave you a stipend, which I didn't have any money while working for Penske. I mean, I was paying my school loans, my apartment, to the point where I actually borrowed money from the people I managed because some of these kids were still living at home with their parents. And me, I was on my own. I wanted to get out of the house. I wanted to grow. I wanted to develop my skills. I wanted to build my just build my business book and my portfolio and kind of grow. So with that being said, I was dealing with finding a car, got the call about my stepdad. I would drive home 6-7 hours at a time to go visit. Paying for gas was a motherfucker. I didn't have it. My parents didn't have it. So I get a call, and it's my mom, and she's like, hey, Chuck's not doing so well. And we knew, like this was kind of going in and out. And he wasn't doing radiation, but he was supposed to be on some radiation pills, and he was just stubborn and didn't take them, and essentially it just got really bad to the point where it took his life. But my mom called me and said, hey, Chuck wants to talk to you. So I talked to him. I remember I talked to him, and he said he was proud of me, and He said he was proud of me while I was driving at work, and man, I went through so much shit, to get to where I was, and for him to say that on his deathbed, it meant the world to me, And so, told my mom I'm coming home. By the time I got there, hospice came in. He was essentially incapacitated. Like, he didn't know I was there. I remember laying next to his bed. They set up in the back family room, and they were giving him morphine drips. And all I kept thinking about was, how did I just talk to one of the greatest men I've ever fucking known 6 hours ago? And now he's essentially, just choking on his own, his own fluids. So, in the morning, it might have been between 8 and 10 o'clock, I'm still in the back room, and he ended up, passing. I won't get into details. I'll always remember it. And yeah, so I lost my stepdad, who essentially raised me and my sister. I'd loved my real dad to death. They were best friends. And when my stepdad passed, I've never seen my dad cry, my real dad cry so much in my life, because they had such respect for each other. That he stepped up and took care of us when my dad was in a nursing home. He picked up my dad, all these great things. And this is what I learned from that. You can have a great person in your life. It could be a great man, it could be a great woman. And in a blink of a fucking eye, it could be taken away from you. And you have to live with it. You can't change it. You can't change the outcome. You have to be there for your family as a man. You have to be there for anybody else that needs your support. And I've been at my younger stepbrother Donnie's side ever since. For his wedding, I spoke because his father wasn't there. And that was a fucking honor. One of the best moments of my life, being able to stand up there and say, hey man, I'm proud of you. Your dad would be proud of you. Me and my wife, we donated to their wedding. Because I knew Chuck would do the same for me. So, great people die. Great men die at a young age. And you can't let it ruin you. You can't let it eat you up. You have to respond. And you have to go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm standing in line. And I'm here. And I'll protect this family. Number 7. Age 24, guys. 24. I'm making some good money. I'm in pharmaceuticals. I got 10 grand. I get a call from a couple buddies of mine in the Cleveland area. And I'm living in Detroit at the time. And they're like, hey, do you want to be part of this gym business? They already owned a 24-hour gym. They wanted to open essentially another gym around the corner, but charge about, I don't know, I think it was $50 to $70 a month. They valued the company at about $100 grand. I'd be a 10% owner. I'd have to put up $10,000, and being a 10% owner, you don't have much fucking say, but they take your money pretty easily. You don't get to see the fucking books, which pisses me off looking back on that. I was a state away, so I couldn't have a lot of involvement, but I worked my ass off with my real dad to get that gym going. Me and him was there. I remember a couple nights just finishing it off when I was in town. And, during that whole process, They could have opened a big gym that was kind of common, was called like 10 rounds or something. Had the capital essentially to jump into Orange Theory at a very low level when Orange Theory was nothing. But their big idea was, oh, we wanna build this up so we could sell it to private equity to have Orange Theory buy us, and none of that came to fruition. Lost 10 grand. It is what it is. I've lost way more money, and you'll hear about that sooner or later. But the one thing I learned from this whole situation is I don't trust fucking people with money in terms of managing businesses. So asking for a donation from me, not a shot. I won't give up percentages of my businesses because I'm the only one that seems to know how to steer it on the right fucking direction. Or at least that's my belief, because I've been burned. And I also learned that people will take your money and not realize that if it's not their money, it's the emotion's not there as much. They're not tied to it as much. So everything was liquidated. Everything was sold. I didn't get a fucking dime back. I'm still friends with them because I do forgive, but I don't forget. And, you know, I hope indirectly, you know, I've been paid back somehow, some way, doing business deals, buying houses. I don't know. Still eats me alive that I got burned like that, but whatever. But I learned don't trust people with your money really quick. So, number 8, age 25 to 27. Here's a big one. So, I was in and out of a toxic relationship, which a lot of us men have been. We're blinded by love. We're blinded by pussy. It's the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it because we all know it happens. There's always women. There's also women that are out there that have been burned the same way. And if a girl watches this and she could take something from it, great. I'm not biased. I have a better perspective from a guy's perspective, and that's the truth. I won't sit here and speak on, from a girl's perspective. And I had this girl that would manipulate me, make me feel like shit. She would call me a pig for literally, we'd be at a restaurant, if somebody walks by, it could be a girl, it could be a guy. It's just whenever there was a girl and, you happen to just catch motion with your eyes, I was considered disgusting. I'm always lusting for women. Well, come to find out, she was gaslighting the fuck out of me. And she was the one, if we ever got in a little argument, it wasn't like, hey, let's work on this. It was, we're breaking up. She's out and about on a dude's fucking motorcycle, fucking a dude from another gym. Like, just chaotic. And the sad part was, she's a mom. And, I took it upon myself. I let them move into my house. I took care of the kid. She essentially, I look back on it, she's a terrible fucking mother. And if anybody watches this and knows who I'm talking about, it's sad. I look, she's married, right? Or no, she's been engaged forever. And me and my wife talk about this because my wife dealt with a shitty relationship before she met me, and I think that's why me and her do so well, is because we've been rock bottom. And I took her son to get his hair cut one time, and she told me I was a disgusting pig for taking him to Lady Jane's in Michigan. Now, I don't know if you guys been to Lady Jane's in Michigan or any barber shop that has females cutting hair. They're not strippers. They're not porn stars. They're women trying to make a living and doll themselves up as much as they can. And their job is honestly be a little flirty and get a good tip. Who gives a fuck? That's life. Move on. And I really didn't even think about that. I was thinking about, man, this kid's never had a father in his life. His mom's been in and out of relationships. How can I make a positive influence on him? So, yeah, I got berated about that. During my sales role, I would meet with doctors during lunchtime, whether it was orthopedic surgeons, rheumatology, internal med, primary care. pain management, PM&R, and I'd have to be in there about an hour or so selling my product, trying to build relationships, and she would demand that I would call her immediately after 1 hour of lunch because she was worried I was flirting with every girl in the office. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't shit where I eat, okay? I definitely don't shit where I eat. And that's why I made it 7.5 years there, is because I had a good reputation. I had a lot of good people to lean on. All the nurses and doctors were my friends. And I look back and I'm thankful that I'm here today because of them and building those relationships. So, but I'll tell you, my low was this. I had suicidal thoughts of all people. The most positive fucking guy you can know, who's optimistic, ambitious, and I would think, man, if I just blew my fucking head off because it would prove to her that I was not cheating, like, would it make her happy? And, I got told by friends, by family, this broad is crazy. And I didn't listen. And, it ruined a lot of my friendships at the time. It ruined, my relationship with my family. And all men have gone through it. I know you guys have. Get the fuck out, I promise you. You'll be better. So the culmination of all these things, what ended up happening was right before the holidays, we're getting ready in the morning. And my dad, I didn't tell you guys this because this really wasn't a failure, but I ended up getting my dad out of the nursing home. And he lives with me in Michigan, or he did, and now he lives with me and my wife here in Ohio. But my dad was living with me. Never a guy that raises his voice. He was always the good cop. My mom was the bad cop growing up. And this girl's just tearing me down in the morning, getting ready for work, and I don't even know what we were arguing about. My dad comes in, and he goes, "You don't fucking yell at my son like that. He takes care of you and your kid, and you show him no respect." And when my dad raised his voice like that, man, it's just this button went off inside me that said, fuck it. If he sees it, I'm a blind idiot, and I need to make changes. I made a decision right before the holidays. I think we were going back for, it had to be Christmas. And as shitty as it sounds, I know it was Christmas because we had an end of year shutdown at that company. I left my house in Michigan. I came back to Ohio for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe even more. And I said, hey, your shit's got to be out. Your son's shit's got to be out. I'm sorry about that. Jaden's a great kid. I've talked to him from time to time over the years and tried to give him advice. And when I came home, she was gone. Thank God. But the bitch took both of my cats. She took my fucking PlayStation. And so she took 3 cats. We had 3 cats together. So I went to her dad's house, and her dad was like, I told you, when I met you, Dale, I knew you were a good guy, and I told you, don't date my daughter, she'll fucking destroy your life. And sure enough, he was right. So I got 2 cats back, Saffron and Subi. They're brothers, an orange cat and a black cat. Black cat doesn't have rear paws. It's pretty crazy. He gets around on some nubs. And if you're wondering how that happened, at birth, the umbilical cord wrapped around, and sadly my younger sister's a drug addict, and she didn't give a fuck. She didn't know what to do, and kind of just let it happen. So anyways, get my cats back, got my PlayStation back, and the moral of the story, man, is so many things happen. We battle insecurities, and I remember driving with my windows down, knowing I was free from her. Put my hand out the window and I started crying. I started crying not because I was sad we broke up. I was crying because I was so fucking happy. I had feeling. I had emotions. I had feeling. I knew I was getting my life back. All my friends built me up with positivity. And from then on, it was, dude, I'm a good guy. I do good things. I'm a good family man. Yeah, sure, I make mistakes, but I'm not a fucking asshole like this girl painted. And so, Don't take manipulation, whether it's from a woman or from a man. Stand up for yourself. Trust me, the people that you love and care about, they love and care about you right back, and they want the best for you. And if it was a good woman or a good man in your life, I promise you they would tell you. And she was not. And so take that for what it is. Number 9. Age 27. My stepdad's dead. My father's living with me. My younger sister's a drug addict. We'll get to that because that's number 10. But my mom's losing my stepdad's house. She can't pay for it. And they hung a notice on the door. She calls me crying, hey, by this date, we have to be out. We have to find a place to live. All right, so at this point in my career, I'm stacking money. I'm making, I don't know, probably 130, 140, 150 a year, something like that. I got stock. Well, the house that I was raised in with my father, he owed about 20 grand on that. When my mom and stepdad took that, when my dad went to the nursing home, they rented it out. The renters destroyed it. My stepdad remodeled it, rented it again. And then those renters they were hoarders, they destroyed it, and my stepdad passed. Nobody can maintain it. Well, I said, Mom, I don't have the money at the time. Let it go to foreclosure. Went to foreclosure. It could not be sold at auction. It was so bad. The bank ends up getting a hold of my mom and says, hey, there's taxes on this house, back taxes, and we'll waive the 20 grand or whatever my dad owed on it because they got money out of him over time, because of interest. We'll give you the house back because they didn't want to pay for the house and in terms of like the remodel, and they didn't want to pay the tax, the back taxes on it. So I said, okay, Mom, here's the deal. Taking ownership of the house, I'm going to pay the 16 grand to the local government, whatever the fuck it was, the county, and paid them 16 grand. Boom, that house becomes mine. I now have the funds and the know-how. I wasn't deep into remodeling at this time, but this is where I got my confidence. Remodeled this house top to bottom. My boss, DJ Eitzen, guys. Look this guy up. One of the most successful men I know, biggest impact guy on me. How do I say it? He was in pharmaceuticals. He was the guy who hired me out of Toledo. Gave some young kid from Garfield Heights a fucking shot, man, because he was a black kid that didn't have much growing up. Had good parents, but they didn't have much either. And he knew, giving good opportunities to kids that have potential, things will happen. So DJ was an athlete growing up, and he always looked at me as like, a younger brother. He had dumpsters. He paid for the dumpsters. There was a bunch of them. I bet you there was 4 or 5 40-yarders in this fucking house. He paid for them, always checked up on me. And at this time, I was living in Michigan still, trying to bring this home back to life with a ticking time bomb of my mom getting kicked out of the other house. So it was a 4-hour drive from Michigan. I'd drive from Michigan to Cleveland on a Friday. I'd take Adderall, work all night. I'd sleep on the disgusting fucking floor of this living room. And then I would do that Friday night, Saturday night, all day Sunday. I would get back about 1 a.m. And I would never miss a Sunday night showdown, which was an email of my entire week planned for pharmaceuticals. I had to write down every doctor I was going to see Monday through Friday. I had to write down all my meetings I was going to have, whether it was lunches, etc. And there was some other stuff we had to fill out, but never missed one. So for about 6 months, I would go back and forth to Michigan every Friday, and my dad came. My dad, who had that stroke, came. Not only that, I want to give a shout out to good college buddy, Nick Dyer. Giving you a shout out because you came and you lived far and you helped me get my mom in that house. Sam Driscoll, you came, you helped me get my mom in that house. Train, Adam Hine, you helped me get my mom in that house. Dawson Gore, you helped me get my mom in that house. And then, lastly, Brian McAvina, dude, you bought us fucking pizza. You were there for me, still doing pharmaceuticals at the same company, and you were my brother till I die. And I thank you guys for that. I thank you guys for that. And the one thing I learned, man, was throughout all the struggles, your friends will be there when it matters most. And my friends showed up. I got my mom in the house. She lived in there for a while, lost that other house, and I took ownership. And man, that's what I learned. Friends will be there in tough times. Doesn't matter how fucking hard it is. If you got the good ones, they will be there. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll go on to number 10. And then, honestly, a little bonus thing I learned at the end. Number 10 is really about my ages 24 to 27, but now I could say it, 24 to 36. My sister's been a drug addict off and on, and I'll tell you what I learned from this, so stay tuned. All right, guys, we're back. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming to talk about this, and I've talked about it a little throughout this podcast, but at the end of the day, my younger sister is an on and off drug addict, and it's not just light stuff. It's everything from, heroin, which is as bad as it gets, to being brought back to life with Narcan. And, there's a lot of people that have dealt with this. There is a lot of people that I grew up with who have had friends that have passed. Personally, I have as well. We all know somebody. It affected our city, our town a lot. It continues to affect us. And, just to throw this out there right now, I've had conversations as of recent as Friendsgiving last weekend. There was a guy that we were all talking politics, and I'm open to talk politics, and you guys know that. He essentially said, I don't think Trump should be blowing up these narco shipping boats because how do we know that they really have drugs on the boats or not? Well, I'll tell you this. If you think that, it blows my mind that you don't think we have intel. Guys, there's either CIA assets down there, Green Beret assets, or Green Berets in general influencing the local population to overthrow the government. There's always somebody on the ground relaying information to the higher-ups, and we're not blowing up a boat just to blow up a boat and make a statement. They have the information. They're assigning, that designation to that boat that's leaving the dock. And that thing's probably blown out of the water strategically before it even fucking leaves. For people to think we're doing stuff as a government like that, at least where they're putting it on TV and we're not covering our ass, you're crazy. You don't understand how the military works. You don't understand how the government works. You don't understand how transparency or semi-transparent works, how assets on the ground work. So, yeah, you really can't comment on that. And to be emotional is just a misunderstanding of your intelligence at the time of the situation. So I told him specifically, this guy I was talking to at Friendsgiving, he was a friend of a friend. I said, I have emotional ties to this. My sister's, dealt with these struggles for a long time. My family has. And blowing those boats out of the water, if it's one less drug getting in the United States, I'm happy for it. So I have no remorse for dumping bad dudes in the fucking dirt and giving them dirt naps. So, with that being said, my sister and so many other people within our community have destroyed families, have, stole from us personally, have, manipulated my mom and manipulated so many others. And you have to cut them off. If you don't cut them off, what happens is you're essentially enabling them to continue to manipulate you for dollars, for objects, items that could be sold, and you cannot change them. And I could not change my sister as many times as I want to, as many times as I ask her to. She has to want to change on her own. She went to county jail multiple times. And the longest time she was there, multiple people died when she was there. I think it was 2 girls. Both hung themselves because it was so bad. And one thing I could look back on is she's drugged our family through so much stuff, emotionally, physically, that you really have to go and ask yourself, how far are you willing to go? How far are you willing to go to protect that family member? How far are you willing to go to tell them to stop? Because you could, how do I say it? You could kill as many bad guys as you want, but they're still going to find it or get their fix if they really want it. Now, personally, I was pretty close to being put down a bad path because of this. Not the drug dealing side, but essentially defending my sister. She's been so deep in this that she's been chained to a radiator in the bottom of a convenience store in the hood of Cleveland. And she was missing for days, and miraculously, in really shitty circumstances, she was on and off with a drug dealer at the time that essentially knew of her whereabouts and knew the details, so they released her. And then I won't give too many details beyond, let's say, my sister is still on and off, and it's still destroying our family. It's been like that for 10 or 12 years. I can't change that. I've been in situations where, to show you guys, I've taken this gun right here that I personally built, that I compete with, 10.5-inch Anderson lower, Radical Arms upper, silencer code 36M, multi-caliber suppressor, Spark AR, red dot. I got work on the trigger. I forget what trigger is in here. Bolt carrier group, etc. Everything is built ground up, and she's done some work for some agencies that I really can't speak on, and I caught wind of it. And being her big brother, being tactically trained, being an instructor, having good friends in different areas of the government, pretty much nobody was looking after her during this bullshit operation, and I had to go and look over my younger sister because of the bullshit and situation she's put our family in. Any guys in the military, QRF, Quick Reaction Force, it depends on where you're located, where you're stationed, and essentially her QRF was not within close proximity if something happened. So she called me. She was scared. She was crying, and she said, "Hey, I got to go do this. I'm afraid. this guy could easily kill me based on what I'm doing and the outcome. What do I do? And this agency's been holding her pretty much hostage off and on, as in, hey, do these things for us and we'll keep you out of jail. But at the same token, if she died, they would not give two fucks. So that was probably the closest I've ever been in terms of a true, hey, if I have to do this, I have to do this. But everything turned out great. I was within 40 yards. 40 yards is pretty fucking close. I could put a lot of bad dudes in the dirt, taking dirt naps, within that, So something I've learned from this is you can't change them if they don't want to be changed. They will drag you down unless you stop it. You can't enable them, and you have to live your life. You can't get so wrapped up in trying to help them that my family, my immediate family, my stepbrother, anybody, you can't be wrapped up in this. So that's that at number 10. And then my bonus one that I wanted to talk about a little bit, a lot of people don't know this. When I left the company I was at for sales, I had a big tax bill. And I'll put this into perspective. My tax bill. So I had to pay the IRS or, cut a check to the federal government for over $100,000. I had to punch my ticket and take out all my stock, pay the government, and now I was left with this big chunk of money. What do I do with it? I believed in two companies at the time, KPTI and also Volcon. KPTI was a pharmaceutical company. I seen a lot of parallels between what I was doing and what they were doing. I seen a lot of correlation between how they grew their sales force and marketing strategy based on how I made my success, so I believed in it. Unfortunately, they got a CEO in there named like Richard Paulson. I remember that because any company I invest in, I sit on the earnings calls, I understand what's going on, and at the end of the day, it was very misleading, but I still fell for it. And I lost, I don't know, anywhere between 100 and 150 grand. On top of that, I lost another probably 200, close to it, on a company called Volcon. They were coming out with an EV side by side, so I am not a fan of EVs. I think it's a bunch of bullshit. Anybody who has a mind that thinks beyond, I feel good driving this energy efficient car, recognizes that to mine lithium, the dozers, the trucks, the shipping, just to get that from the mine to the plant to even manufacture the batteries is using more emissions than you're saving. So it's actually not a net zero. It's worse than that. It's more of a feel-good moment. Our technology is not there yet. I think the best thing out there, if you had a choice, is maybe more of a hybrid. But I'm never afraid to speak on it, never afraid to talk on it. I'm not going to talk about lies regarding that. So anyways, this company said they had some government contracts that they're testing some stuff, which was true. They sent 3 items or 3 units to the government. And I was messaging them back and forth on Facebook and in some public forums, asking if the product that they were delivering, which, an EV side-by-side, is super quiet. It's a different ball game. GE was backing their drivetrain, and that was because at the time Trump was coming out of office, the Biden administration was coming in, they were pushing the whole gold-green bullshit, and a lot of companies were bending the knee to that. So, hey, if you jump on board, you could hit a big win. As much as I didn't believe in it, I said, okay, a bunch of idiots are going to buy this thing. And they had close to $1 billion or more than $1 billion in pre-sales. And little did I know, until the very end, they announced the pre-sales were $100 deposits that were non-refundable. They didn't have to buy the unit, even though they said they were going to be delivered on October of, like, I think 2023. They essentially never got delivered. People lost their $100 deposit, but they didn't lose billions of dollars. But I did. I lost, gosh, I think 160 to 100, maybe 200 grand. So within 2 companies, I lost a couple $100,000 that I worked 7.5 years for, dedicated my life to this company, did everything I could to get ahead. And the moral of the story of this is you're going to get knocked down. So many people I hear complain about, oh, you know, I lost this much money, or, you know, it's going so bad. Guys, I'm a big believer in your ship can be sinking, but it hasn't sunk yet, right? There's always a time to turn it around. And you have to put it into perspective that there's a lot of people out there that have a sunken ship. You know, they have cancer, they have a brain tumor, they're never coming back. They know that. And I'm not going to sit here and sulk, because at the end of the day, my life's not over. I have a time to respond, right? Hell, maybe this fucking podcast makes me a millionaire. I don't know. But if it doesn't, that's okay, right? You take as many shots as you can on goal, and sooner or later one's hits. So we got the Bluebell Barn, we got F1 Contracting, we got this podcast, lost a couple $100 grand. I'm still alive. I have a great life, great friends, great family, and hopefully you guys took 1 through 10 plus the bonus of getting to know me a little bit, understand where I'm coming from, understand I do have a lot of experience. I'll preach it a million times over. I have a ton of failures that I've learned from. Hopefully you guys learn from it. I have a few good successes that I hope you take some stuff from that as well. And we're going to have journeys along this whole thing that we call a podcast with a bunch of guests that have different messages and different stories, different companies that align with a ton of people out there. So